Well, good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Hopefully good. I have to apologize in advance. Like probably many of you, I am suffering from extreme allergies, so I'm sorry if I sound like a little bit like I'm going through puberty right now. It's not actually that. But first off, I want to start by thanking Yale. Thank you so much for putting together this amazing event. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here again. And my favorite part of the day, selfishly speaking, is actually getting questions from all of you. So what I'm going to attempt to do is go through my material fairly quickly so we can get to the Q&A part. So one of the first things I want to do is actually give you a little context about Keds and our history. So I'm going to play a quick video, and then we'll be back together right after this. Hopefully it plays. One more. Where's the music? Should I be singing for you guys? And that would be a horrible thing, because I'm slightly tone deaf. Do you want me, can we get sound? This has an amazing impact. Normally I dance to the back of this, but we're gonna get sound eventually. I'm gonna go back and just pause for 1 second, because I can't do this without sound. So thank you everyone for your patience on this. I think they're working through this, but as they're pulling this together, the reason why I wanted to do this video is we are so fortunate at Keds because we have over 102 years of history. And when you see in this video, I'm not going to do it justice now, but I'll try and give you the encapsulated version. When you think about it in my office, one of the first things that I walked into on day one 3 years ago was looking at our archive imagery. And right now in my office, I have an image of Marilyn Monroe in our shoes, Jackie O, Audrey Hepburn, and Yoko Ono getting married to John Lennon. And those are things, if you think about it as a CMO, that you can't create. That's just part of your heritage, and it's a dream and it's an honor to be part of this brand. So hopefully I think the video may work now. We feel confident about it, so let's see. Can we make it louder?
Yes, it's a good day for singing a song, and it's a good day for moving along. Yes, it's a good day.
Always look for the label big and blue.
It's one of my favorites.
This is Colonel Keds about to fly again, wearing the Bell Rocket Belt. And Keds, America's favorite shoe.
Love me good. Someone to love.
It was a gas. Soon turned out how hard it lasts.
Yeah, you must be my lucky star, 'cause you make the darkness seem so far. Don't go chasing.
You are?
I'm the Keds shoe shine kid. Keds, they feel good.
So as you can see, it's very hard for me to do this any justice by myself and trying to sing that out loud. So thank you for humoring me on the technical challenges there. So I think one of the most important things for you to know about the Keds brand and our DNA is our mission. And our mission is to champion our lady to be who she wants to be and go where she wants to go. And that's at the core of everything that we do. So about 3 years ago, when I started at Keds, the focus was around the teenage consumer. And for me, one of the most important things when you start at a new brand is to dig into the consumer insights and data. And when I did that, I found out something really interesting, because there's always sometimes a disconnect between the perception and the reality, the perception on who your consumer is and the reality on what your data is telling you. And the reality was actually leaning towards potentially moving or shifting to the millennial female. And to me, that seemed like a very smart and strategic decision. So that's what we started on this journey about 3 years ago. And what we did was we leveraged consumer insights to drive our business forward. There are 3 key areas that we focused on. First was brand heat and driving that. Second was owning female empowerment. And third was driving omnichannel retail. So I think this is indicative of a day in her life of our consumer, the millennial. First, she wakes up and looks at her phone. Second, she gets dressed. That's the first opportunity for us to have share of closet. Then she checks her phone again. Then she might go out to lunch. That's our second opportunity to have share of closet. And then later in the day, she may go to a studio class. She may go out with her friends. Those are our third and fourth touch points to have share of our closet. And what you can see in a day in her life is there are 3 key trends. First, she's always on her phone, which is not unlike most of us these days. Second, she's constantly multitasking. And then third, she's heavily influenced by celebrities and bloggers. So let's go back to her spend and her style. Why it's important to have data. Data is power. When you look at the size of her potential closet to us, that represents $2,000. That's a really important number, coupled with the fact that the average spend that she places on a casual pair of shoes is $80. That indicates we might have some price elasticity within our Keds product line. And that's a very important note for myself in marketing, but also for our sales team and our head of product development. Then couple that with her style, you can see she wears numerous different styles. So for us, one of the key insights on this was, how do we show her the breadth and the depth and the diversity of our line in a very compelling, rich storytelling fashion? Because that clearly will appeal to her and help her convert and buy our product. When we look at other points of data, such as her media consumption and where she gets her information, this was particularly interesting to many of the people on the team. She consumes digital media. I think that's intuitive to most people these days, but she also consumes traditional media. So as a result of getting this insight, we're actually now testing more print. And this may seem counterintuitive, I think, to many people right now, but it's actually been extremely effective for us. And then when you look at her sources of information, she's heavily, heavily influenced by both bloggers and social media. So for us, it's not just about investing more money, but as you may know, if you work with bloggers and influencers, it's actually about investing in time and nurturing those relationships, because bloggers are people. So it's a different allocation of resources within my team. And then another point of data for us was looking at her digital DNA or footprint that she leaves on our own channels. We know now that she's global, and what was really fascinating was pulling all of this from our Instagram account and really seeing where the different markets were. And what was fascinating too is it directly correlates to different sales and opportunities. So again, a very important business insight. The second element here is we know that female empowerment is resonating. The 4th most clicked area on our website is the hashtag ladies first. And that was a really important thing and something that we've been working on, frankly, for about a year or so. And then finally, what we were able to ascertain is brand heat is on the rise. And when you look at Google search, if anyone's played with the Google Analytics tools, they're fascinating. It's like a rabbit hole on things you can find out. Highly encourage it. But the point is, if you do play in that space, what you can find out, at least for us, is we discovered the term Keds shoes was up over 4,000%. And again, I look at the digital DNA of your consumer and many times being a future indicator on where your global consumer may be going and where trends are starting to spread. So what is she doing? In summary, as we said, she's always on her phone. We know that she's constantly multitasking. And we know that she's heavily influenced by celebrities. So then the question becomes, what are we doing about this? One thing that we're doing is we're creating more mobile content. And I think a key point on this is mobile content doesn't need to be 2 minutes of long form. I consider that long form at this point, by the way. Doesn't need to be 2 minutes of long form content. It can be 5-second GIFs that are shot in your office on the desk of someone. And those can have just as much impact and reach. The other element we're doing to address the multitasking is we're thinking about how are we going to tell compelling omni-channel stories? Because she may be on her phone in a store, then in an airport picking up a magazine. How are we going to make sure that each discrete touch point she has with our brand can stand on its own, almost like a chapter in a book, but also can be cumulative and richer when it's put together or knitted in some fashion? And then finally, we know she's influenced by celebrities, so what we're doing is we're expanding our influencer program. And those are all elements that we're doing to drive the connection with our millennial female. So let's dive in a bit more to the first pillar I mentioned that we're focused on, driving brand heat. To me, driving brand heat has 3 core elements. First is celebrity, second is seeding, and third is PR. And diving into celebrity, everybody has a different definition. This is just mine. But how I think about celebrity is it all comes down to reach. So for example, at Keds, we are working with very specific celebrities, and what I deem a celebrity would be someone with 1 to 10 to 20 million Instagram followers. We have a woman named Crystal Jung, who is a K-pop superstar, similar to Taylor Swift here. That would be Crystal in Korea. So we work with Crystal and another woman named Priya. We also work with a ton of regional and micro influencers. And then I would also say, just as importantly, from an authenticity standpoint, is our Ladies for Ladies collaborators. So these are women like Anna Bond, who is the CEO and founder of Rifle Paper. And we have created shoes with her, and that is one of our most successful launches this year. To give you an idea or context of that, when we launched the Rifle Paper collection a few months ago, we sold out in 24 hours of all of our inventory. So this is a good, bad business problem to have. Building on the celebrity reach, this is why I think of why celebrities are so important to us. I think of celebrities as the new form of media, and this is a perfect illustration of that, which is on our owned channel, meaning our Keds' own Instagram channel, we post a piece of content about what we're doing to support International Women's Day. We garner 1,000 likes. That's fine, that's great. Then Allison Williams posts on her channel, she gets 16,000. So you start to see the reach impact. And to me, where this gets really interesting is this illustration. It's more what I consider a flywheel, which is Allison Williams posted, she's just posting at home, a quick Instagram of herself wearing our shoes. That garners 143,000 views. It's shoes with socks on at her house, that's what it is. That's what it garners. The next thing you see is an editor, another blogger, or someone else picks it up and was like, interesting, weaves a story about her into the Daily Mail. Then right after that, we also get a print placement editorial, we didn't pay for this, in People magazine. So what this does is it goes back to the flywheel, that you're working with celebrities, garnering impressions, then it fuels other forms of media, and then it just keeps feeding. What this does is it drives not only traffic to our .com website, which is very important to us, but it also drives brand heat, going back to the key principle here, and it also drives wholesale interest. So going back to the second form of brand heat, how we support that, is around seeding. And there are 2 types of seeding. The first one is with bloggers, and the second is with consumers. And both of these have the same objective: get shoes in the hands of people who will become very loyal brand ambassadors. And equally important, these people create some of the most stunning and on-brand content that we could ever imagine. This is all user-generated content that we in turn can use on our website, in stores, and other ways. So a very important part of driving brand heat. And the final element around brand heat is PR placements, and there are 3 types of those. First is press previews. I love press previews. Can I see a hand? How many people have been to press previews in their life? I highly encourage somehow finding some of us who can get you to them. The reason is it's a focus group that you're not paying for. And the reason I say that is for us, we get to put out a season or two in advance our line. You bring in editors and press into a room, and you have the most amazing consumer insights and editorial insights. So ahead of a launch, you're getting real-time feedback from the editorial people, which is very, very valuable, not only from a marketing standpoint on what features or benefits they're gravitating towards, but also for our product team, which is really important as well. The other element that's really important about press previews, again, it goes back to my point. We as brands right now are voracious consumers of content. We are publishers, whether we like it or not, and we need a lot of content. Press previews, I get images out of those events of editors taking photographs. So now, ahead of the actual launch, I have more imagery that I can actually leverage when launch time comes, which means it will have even more impact on sell-in and sell-through in the marketplace. The second type of press placements, or PR placements, is editorial. This is a fascinating science, if you will, a little bit of art, which means, again, going back to the press previews, you are hoping you are telling a rich story, compelling these editors who fall in love with your product from touching them, looking at them, taking photographs, and you pray 3-4 months out in long lead press, especially in print, that you're featured in some of their editorial photo shoots. And that has a tremendous amount of impact because, as you may know, publishing and edit, it's like church and state. You don't pay for this. So that's why we never know what will actually happen. But again, it garners a tremendous amount of reach and also gives a certain level of authenticity. And then finally, I don't want to in any way skip over this, press stories. I think it's also important to not only think about the B2C element, but also the B2B element of a brand. What I mean by this is if Ad Week features a story about us supporting International Women's Day or Women's Equality Day, then it usually gets picked up by something that maybe is more B2C. And we get focal point this year is owning female empowerment. And why this is so important to us, this was really rich information that we just got from a consumer insights research group that we are partnering with. We know that our consumer thinks that Keds is a brand that she trusts, it's a brand for women, and it's for someone like her. This is very, very helpful for us to know to validate the position we've been taking for the past 2 years, and it helps us set the course for the upcoming 2 to 3 years. So female empowerment is something that means something to her and actually drives purchase decisions. So for us, there are 3 ways that we're really focusing on female empowerment. First is large-scale events. What I think is so important about this is consistency and longevity. And what I mean by that is for the past 3 years, we consistently have been celebrating International Women's Day and Women's Equality Day. Those 2 key tentpoles have been something we've been standing behind. Even before many movements in the past year or so that have popped up, we were there 3 years ago. And I think it's important from a credibility and authenticity standpoint to approach it that way. Our second key way that we're approaching owning female empowerment is around Ladies for Ladies, and I'll touch on this in more detail. But in a nutshell, we're focusing on our female leadership team. We have a very unique team at Keds that I'm very proud to be a part of. We have a female president, a female CFO, female head of product, female head of sales, and me being the female head of marketing. This is very unique, not only in footwear, but I'd argue in a lot of different industries. And that's something that we actually have had a lot of consumer feedback in social media and elsewhere, asking to learn more about how we came together as a team, how we function, et cetera. So that's something, again, we're responding to our consumer on. And then the second part of Ladies for Ladies is we only collaborate with female entrepreneurs. And these are some of the women that I'll touch on. And then finally, local activations. It's really important to have these large-scale global programs, but it's also really important to have those touch points throughout the year that create richer experiences for consumers around the world. So this is an example of what I mean that we've done for International Women's Day. This was in New York City. So when you think about it, at an event, you have this moment where you can have a few hundred, a few thousand people attend. But one of the most important things to me as a global CMO is thinking about accessibility, because not all my consumers live in New York City and can attend this event. So it becomes this challenge: how do you create accessibility to everyone else? That's where we came up with Facebook live streaming. So over 500,000 other global consumers not only could view it, but actually participate real time in the Q&A, which had a huge impact, and it also drove a tremendous amount of international press coverage. So it's thinking about all these different facets. We also do a tremendous amount on Women's Equality Day, which is really exciting to me, because when you think about it, if you know the genesis of Women's Equality Day, this is more of a US-centric holiday, and it shows where the macro movement is going, I would say, with consumers, that this was being celebrated in Malaysia. I mean, essentially, it's around the 19th Amendment. And I loved the fact that our Malaysian partners were like, we want to celebrate it as well. So I think this is really, really rich, and it shows a lot about the DNA of the brand and also the hunger of our consumers for this type of content. And then touching on the second point that I mentioned on how we're supporting our female empowerment, this Ladies for Ladies idea. I mentioned to you, yes, this is a little GIF, you notice, going back to my love of GIFs, of the product. Why I call this out is we literally are the only footwear company that have what's called a female last, meaning we design shoes for a woman's foot. So we don't design shoes for a male foot and then scale them down. That's why they look phenomenal. This is why I can wear them now and at black tie events, because they're literally made for women to wear. And that's important, and those benefits we're calling out more to our consumer. And then the other piece of Ladies for Ladies that I mentioned is around the brand. We're telling more rich stories around the female collaborators that we're partnering with, and also about our female executive team. And then finally, as I mentioned to you, I think this is a really fun example of a local event. This was from one of our markets in Thailand who loved the concept of ladies first and want to celebrate women. And when you think about this, going back to garnering the insight around women love female-led brands and want to champion it, this, I mean, look how festive this looks. And it's all around ladies first and driving that message home, and had a tremendous amount of press outreach. So then the third key focal point for me this year is driving omnichannel retail. Our lady wants to be noticed. This was one of our key insights, that she wants to look at lifestyle herself, sort of in situation, what lifestyle imagery means to her. And frankly, she's admitted more in smaller focus groups to us, she struggles with styling. So what she wants from us is, how do I pull off sneakers with dresses or different outfits? So that was a key insight for us, from shifting from what had happened about 3 years ago, which was beautiful hero shoe shots, to let's show a woman styled head to toe. So yes, the shoe, which is what we're selling, may be smaller in scale, but we're actually helping her convert and to understand how to wear our product, because that's actually what she's looking for from us. So here is an example of how we think about this. Everything is around the consumer. And I loved you know, what you said earlier this morning from L'Oreal. I really am consumer obsessed, and so is my team. So at the end of the day, I do not have a chair, but I might do that, a little tiny chair, because I'm not going to lug the big one. But what I do have in my office is photographs of our consumer. And then what I have on my wall is every month what our consumer sees around the world. So my running joke is, it looks like A Beautiful Mind meets Carrie Matheson. So I understand there's some undertones there. But why I think that's really important to share with you is it's grounding. When your team comes in, or you come in and you have a brilliant idea for an event or for a future collaboration, or you want to post a new type of content on social media, it's grounding. What does her world look like? Is this going to add to her? Is it consistent? Is it helping us? And this is how we think about omnichannel. So this shows you we still absolutely have a lot of product imagery, but you'll notice we infused a lot more of lifestyle imagery and even more events and experience. So for example, that VW van, that's a trial experience that we're testing this year alone, because we got the insight that our consumers said, you know, I can't necessarily find the exact shoe I want in retail. I want to try it on because I don't want to deal with returns. So now we're rolling out a different trial experience for her. And this is what we look like. This is an amalgamation from around the world. We have mono-brand retail, not in the US. I think a lot of people are surprised to learn we have dozens of stores, but they're in Asia and Latin America. So this is what we look like there and how we express ourselves. And then why I'm sharing this with you is this actually was content that we generated for two purposes, and it shows how our consumers' lives are blurring. And what I mean by that is this is amazing, rich content that has performed obscenely well for us on Instagram, which I'm sure you're not shocked by. But where it's also performed obscenely well is I had installed in all of our stores huge, large screens. So in Asia and Latin America, one of the first things you see when you walk in is a screen with our gifts looping and things like this, which cause that moment of pause. And what you want is that foot traffic. And this is one of the ways that we're doing it. This is to show you an idea of how we think of events. This actually was done a little bit over 10 days ago in Macy's Herald Square. If anyone has been there, that is a very intense environment to break through. And we did it by, we were introducing our Studio line, which is a really highly functioning shoe that is more for to and fro from different athletic pursuits. And again, we found female instructors who led yoga classes and boxing classes in the actual Herald Square store. And we supported it with print advertising, going back to the insight I said earlier in People magazine. And we supported it both in social media and on Macy's website. And finally, this is a great example. We just launched a bit ago the Kate Spade Bridal collection that has been hugely successful. But where we actually started, and this goes back to thinking about consumer insights, is we know she spends time on her phone. So we started to think about why wouldn't we start launching products digitally native first and then roll them out into other channels. And that's what we did with our Kate Spade collection, and this is how we supported the storytelling. So then when we were going out to wholesale partners afterwards and around the world, we could show sell-in, sell-through data, and then frankly it was very easy to expand the collection and its growth. So then in summary, these are my lessons learned. First, we'll continue to own female empowerment. I think we know that both from our insights and also the reaction of what our consumer feedback has been consistent to us. Second, we'll ensure both a very healthy mix of digital media, which makes a ton of sense, but also we're infusing more traditional media because that's what we know our consumers actually oscillating between both types of those. And then finally, we're driving reach with micro-influencers and seeding because we know that's also another key point in the consumer journey that influences her purchase decision. And then lastly, I would say, please remember to always keep ladies first. So thank you.
Hi, I was wondering if you struggle with alienating your core customer ever. It seems like you've identified this healthy target segment of millennials, but do you ever think about your core Midwestern lady or your retention mom who might not be, let's say, attracted to imagery, or are you confident in that this brand positioning is a great umbrella strategy for all?
I think there are a few things, if I can unpack that. First and foremost, at Keds, we have an amazing opportunity. We are multi-generational. We sell kids' shoes as well, and we have people all the way, and you know, like Barbara Bush, who just passed away. She had 24 pairs of shoes given to her by her husband almost annually because she loved her shoes. So we have everything in between on all those generations. But I think it goes back to a really salient point that I believe in that was mentioned even earlier is you have to be definitive on something. Otherwise, I would call it almost a vanilla strategy. You can't be everything to everyone. And I think when you think about it, if you think tightly on the millennial consumer, 25 to 35 roughly, statistically speaking, there are a ton of young moms still in that. And that's not bound, by the way, a millennial is not bound by geography. And I think what's important on that, I would argue actually our millennial positioning is more encompassing and relatable than where we were as teenagers. Because when you think about it, when you're targeting a teen target, I would say you're probably more heavily running into issues positioning on being multi-generational. So frankly, what we've only received is very, very positive feedback that we seem like we're back to our DNA and being more inclusive, and gotten nothing but positive praise on that. But great question.
You said that your search, I'm sorry, I'm right here.
Oh, great, thanks. I was like, where are you?
Hello.
Hi.
You said that your search had increased 4,000% on Google. I was curious to know 4,000% versus what, and then what do you think the primary drivers were?
Great point. I can't give raw numbers, but what I can say, the primary driver of that was an organizational change that we made. When I started about 3 years ago, I am actually the only CMO within the company that also oversees e-commerce. And where that's important is I fundamentally, and if anyone has a better term, I will take it, I fundamentally believe in omnichannel. And the only way you can actually drive an omnichannel business is if you have all the channels, going back to aligning incentives, working in harmony. And what that 4,000% and some of the other data metrics are around, like 20%, 40% growth in our email database year over year, it's attributed to that, where we now have one holistic team that is incentivized to do the right thing for the consumer, and she's responding.
Hi. Do we have time for another one? All right. One more. Hey, I'm over here. Hi.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's hard.
Clearly I'm challenged. I'll take a flag.
No problem. I'm Eric from Instagram. Thank you so much, because I don't think I have to give my talk this afternoon now, because I think you just totally covered it for me.
I kind of like you guys, if
thank
you
you
didn't figure
so
that
much.
out.
No,
Yeah.
but seriously, I think one of the things that I often run across when I'm speaking about Instagram to folks is saying it's incredibly authentic for Keds. You're a pop culture brand. You've been ingrained forever. I'm often talking to folks that are maybe in more traditional, less pop culture-y spaces.
Right.
What do you say is what you're doing possible for Listerine?
Wow. It's a great question. And if anyone works at Listerine, please declare yourself now. No, all kidding aside, yes, I think it is. I think it's possible for any brand. I absolutely fundamentally do. And why I say that, it all comes back, I think of brands as people. And what I mean by that is if you understand a brand's DNA, I mean fundamentally understand the brand's DNA and understand, like a person, the rational elements of them and the emotional elements, and then you're able to have a very tight lens on how you express that in social media, both from an imagery and a tonal standpoint, absolutely you can. But what I want to be clear on is how Listerine's go-to-market will look versus Keds versus another brand should be different, because you have different DNAs in the mix. But yes, it's absolutely possible.